be the way we feel deep inside. You and me were meant to be. Won't you, baby, say I love you?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we return back to the Rochester, New York region to take a look at one of their more successful malls. However, I do question if that success will continue due to recent events and changes that are happening here, but I do still have hope that it will remain successful. However, this technically isn't just one mall, as this mall was actually built as two separate malls that were connected together in the 90s. So let's take a walk through the mall at Greece Ridge in Greece, New York, tell its story of its two separate malls and how it became one mall, and see what it holds in store for us during this visit in March 2024. Now, before we get started, I would like to leave a couple disclaimers and mention a couple things. First of all, this footage was recorded around a year ago in March 2024, and a lot has changed since my visit, and I will be sure to mention all of those changes throughout this video. Second, we will have to combine the history of multiple malls into one video, as this was originally built as two separate malls connected together. So if things get a little mixed up, I'm sorry, but I'm going to try to make it as easy for all of you to understand as possible. But with that said, each time we enter a different section of the mall, I will leave a little icon in the corner of your screen, letting you know which section of the mall you are currently seeing. Now with that being said, let's get into the history. History would begin in the mid to late 1960s, when the town of Greece, New York would receive two shopping malls. The first mall would be the Greece Towne Mall. Opening its doors on May 1st, 1967, the Greece Towne Mall would feature a Sibley's, Rochester-based National Clothing, G.C. Murphy's, and a Loblaws supermarket as its original anchors. Greece Towne Mall would begin with great success, but right next door, a second mall would begin being developed. This mall would be called the Longridge Mall. The first phase of Longridge Mall was a standalone McCurdy's department store, which opened on October 2nd, 1969. The rest of Longridge Mall would be built onto the existing McCurdy's department store. And 2 years later, on September 15th, 1971, Longridge Mall would officially open its doors for the first time. It would be anchored by the existing McCurdy's, as well as a Sears, a Woolworths, J.B. Hunter, and B. Foreman Company. Whilst we are currently walking through the Longridge Mall portion, it is worth mentioning that in early advertising for the Longridge Mall, they would actually call it the Longridge Plaza. However, advertising would end up going over to the Longridge Mall name by 1972. Despite the Greece Towne Mall and the Longridge Mall being right next door to each other, both malls would manage to coexist throughout the 1970s despite competing with each other. But in 1975, J.B. Hunter would close up shop in the Longridge Mall, but their space wouldn't sit vacant for long, as it would be converted to a J.C. Penney shortly after, whom relocated operations from their existing store they had in Greece. And in 1980, the Greece Towne Mall would receive an expansion, adding an additional wing as well as a new anchor, Gold Circle. Gold Circle would last until 1988 when they closed up shop. From there, the space would be converted to a Hills in 1989. However, Hills would only last a year, before the space became a Caldor in 1991. By the late 1980s, talks to link the Greece Towne Mall and the Longridge Mall together would begin circling around, with newer and larger malls opening up in the Rochester region, such as the Marketplace Mall in 1982 and the Irondequoit Mall in 1990. Both of the malls in Greece would have a tougher time surviving on their own right next door to each other. And when the plans to expand the Eastview Mall in Victor were revealed, a plan would begin to build a new 300,000 square foot corridor to connect the Greece Towne Mall and the Longridge Mall together. This new corridor would also feature a food court, as well as many more additions. Whilst the new wing was being constructed, more changes would continue to happen at the existing malls, notably with their anchors. In 1990, Sibley's at the Greece Towne Mall was converted to a Kaufmann's, and at the Longridge Mall, the early 1990s would see Woolworths close up shop, and in 1992, B. Foreman Company would close their Longridge Mall store. However, none of these anchors would sit vacant for long, as the B. Foreman Company space would be acquired by Kaufmann's, and they would convert the building into a Kaufmann's home store, and the former Woolworths space would become home to a Dick's Sporting Goods, which would open in 1994. Also in 1994, May Company, who owned Kaufmann's, would also purchase the McCurdy's space at the Longridge Mall, hoping to convert the building into a Kaufmann's. However, Bon-Ton, who acquired the McCurdy's chain, would take May Company to court, as they were attempting to block Bon-Ton from entering into the Rochester market. However, they would settle on an agreement that Bon-Ton would be able to take over the McCurdy's stores in Irondequoit, Henrietta, and Victor, whilst Kaufmann's would be able to take over the Greece McCurdy's building. However, this would mean that Bon-Ton would get to take over the Sibley's building, hence why Kaufmann's would relocate into the McCurdy's space, whilst Bon-Ton would take over the Sibley's building. Also in the 90s, JCPenney would relocate operations to a new building that would be part of the new wing. Their existing space would become home to a Burlington coat factory on the upper level and a Lechmere on the lower level. And after a long time waiting, The mall at Greece Ridge as we know it today would officially begin operations on March 15th, 1994. Around the same time, the new JCPenney would open up. At the time, the mall at Greece Ridge would be one of the largest malls in the United States and would be the largest mall in the Rochester region. Take a look at those incredible fountains. I'm going to turn on the audio because these fountains were some of the coolest mall fountains.
Yeah, you can see what Wetzel's used to be. It used to be a great American cookie.
Now that the malls were connected together, the mall at Greece Ridge was a massive success. It would begin with great fanfare and would continue to see many more additions as more tenants would continue to open up in the mall, such as Old Navy in 1994, as well as Bed Bath & Beyond in 1998, and a Circuit City whom would replace the long vacated Loblaws space. And a Barnes & Noble would also open around this time. However, whilst the mall would be very successful, Lechmere was not, and they would close their doors in 1997. Also around this time, Caldor would close. Their space would be completely torn down and replaced with a Hoyt Cinema, which would open in 1999. Also that same year, a Target would open up as an out parcel in the mall parking lot, and a Michael's Craft Store would open. By 2004, the Hoyt Cinema would be rebranded as Regal Cinema. In 2005, Burlington Coat Factory would relocate downstairs into the former Lechmere space, leaving the upper level of that building vacant to this day. And in 2006, Kaufman's would rebrand to Macy's during the May and Federated Department Store's buyout. Macy's would continue to operate a dual anchor setup with both the main as well as their home store. However, the upper level of the home store would be closed off around this time. 2009 would see Circuit City close as they went out of business, and not much else would happen up until 2012, when Bon-Ton closed up shop at the mall at Greece Ridge. By 2013, the former Bonton space would be torn down to make way for a new mall entrance as well as a new lifestyle wing that would include many new shops and restaurants, such as Chico's, Red Robin, and Bar Louie, just to name a few. This new wing would be called the State Street Wing, and it would be completed by 2014. 2015 would see Sears Holdings spin off 235 of their properties, including the mall at Greece Ridge Sears location, to Seritage Growth Properties. This corner over by the former cinema looked really cool. I love the colors over here and the skylight is awesome. But there was also a nice little surprise hiding back here for me and Steve. One that was really cool, but would also have something pretty nasty hiding right behind it. Does this still work?
I don't hear a dial tone. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
Aw. Still really cool though.
Brother, ugh.
Oh, there's a piece of gum in that. I just put it to my ear.
Ew.
It's nasty.
Yeah. It's always nice to see a payphone, even if it doesn't work anymore. But the piece of gum on the receiver was pretty nasty, and whoever did that, shame on you. That's just immature and it's gross. On December 15th, 2016, an individual would fire shots into a vehicle parked outside of the Old Navy at the mall. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, and the suspect would be taken into custody. In early 2018, Ruby Gordon Home and Furniture would open up in the former Circuit City space. However, in April that year, Sears would announce the closure of their mall at Greece Ridge location, and their store would close in July 2018. Thankfully, the mall at Greece Ridge would not take too much of a hit with the loss of Sears, as business would continue on as usual and the mall would retain high occupancy. Greece Ridge would even make it through the COVID lockdown in 2020 just fine, but that didn't stop other stores from closing, such as Bed Bath & Beyond in early 2021. In January 2023, Regal Cinemas would announce the closure of their mall at Greece Ridge Theater as their lease was ending. But it would also be announced that Apple Cinemas would renovate the theater and take it over. Originally, they were supposed to open that summer, but as of the recording of this, they still have not opened yet. But it seems like they are planning to open sometime in 2025. And in March 2024, Burlington would relocate their operations from their old space into the former Bed Bath & Beyond, and this would leave the old J.B. Hunter building completely vacant. Also in early 2024, Ruby Gordon Home would announce their closure as a result of their bankruptcy, and they would close shortly after my visit to the mall. In the summer of 2024, the former Sears space would get filled in by a storage facility, and around this time, Macy's would sell their mall at Greece Ridge stores. This would result in a major setback for the mall at Greece Ridge, as in January 2025, Macy's would announce the closure of their Greece Ridge location along with 65 other stores nationwide. This will leave 2 more anchor spaces vacant in the mall. Thankfully, the Ruby Gordon Homes store would get replaced by a Goodwill in early 2025, but with the Macy's stores closing in March, this will leave a major setback for the mall at Greece Ridge. The future is definitely unknown for this mall, as whilst it seems like the mall's current owner, Wilmerite, seems like they are planning on keeping the mall at Greece Ridge as a premier shopping destination for the Rochester region, many of these vacant anchors are just going to leave a major dent on the mall. Only time will tell what the future holds for the mall at Greece Ridge. Now, real quickly, I just want to say this mall is massive, 1.4 million square feet. And it's crazy to think how 2 malls would be connected together like this. It's really strange, but I like it a lot. But this mall is just massive. Even comparing it to one of my local malls, the South Park Mall in Ohio near Cleveland, this mall feels way larger because it's a single floor, where South Park is 2 stories.
I really enjoyed Greece Ridge Mall. It was a big mall that definitely felt like 2 malls connected into one, because it was, and one portion of the mall felt significantly more dead than the other half. The half that was less dead was extremely lively, open, and bright, and felt like walking around an outdoor center. It had beautiful fountains that I almost wished I could have swam in. Just kidding. This mall had a really neat color scheme of turquoise and pastel pink, which I loved, and retro-looking lights throughout the mall, which kept turning on and off for some reason. I really loved this mall. It had unique architecture and was definitely worth the drive.
Wilmerite really did something special with the mall at Greece Ridge. They did a fantastic job combining the 2 malls into one, and when they remodeled the older malls, they still made them feel pretty old school and classic, with the newer connecting wing feeling like an absolute 90s paradise. This teal and salmon color scheme is absolutely amazing, and those marquee lights are just the cherry on top. Those fountains are absolutely incredible, and the carousel in the food court just adds any bit of extra character throughout the mall. I really enjoyed the mall at Greece Ridge, and it's definitely one of my favorite malls I ever visited when it comes to aesthetics. Now, obviously, since this footage was recorded in March 2024, Macy's has announced closure, and the store is probably going to be closed by the time you are watching this video. That is a major problem that needs to be addressed very quickly, especially since Macy's had a dual anchor setup in this mall. That leaves 2 additional anchor spaces vacant in this mall on top of the old Burlington building. Luckily, it seems like occupancy inside the mall is still pretty high, and you still have a ton of mainstays like Bath & Body Works, JD Sports, Marshalls, Old Navy, GameStop, and American Eagle, just to name a few. But that does not hide the fact that this mall at least sits with 3 vacant anchor spaces, and I think that that is a major problem, and that needs to be addressed fast, as that could really deteriorate occupancy inside the mall. Oh, I still remember when we were here and grabbed Pretzel Maker. They have the best mall pretzels by far. I gotta say, it's even better than Wetzel's, which is another one of my favorites. But both of them are better than Auntie Anne's. And here is the now closing Macy's. Now, I wanted to try to make it back up here to document this store, but timing unfortunately just didn't work out for me. So I want to give a massive shout out and say thank you to my friend Retail Adventures with Alex, who not only joined me during this episode, but also was able to capture some footage of the closing Macy's for me. So massive thank you to Alex as well as Steve for joining me in this episode, and thank you to Alex for this footage of the Macy's. I will leave their channels linked in the description of this video. Now, despite the recent news with a ton of rowdy teenagers and recent fights happening at this mall, the mall at Greece Ridge is a mall I would love to revisit one day. This mall was absolutely amazing architecturally and also had a great store lineup. I really enjoyed my visit here, and I wish I was able to spend more time here on the day I was here. But I'm grateful I was able to finally visit this mall. It was absolutely worth the drive for me, and it is by far my favorite mall in the Rochester region. To those of you who stuck around to the end of the video, I would like to say thank you so much for watching. I know this was one of my longer episodes, but the sheer size of this place is the reason this ended up being as long as it was, and I'm not disappointed about that. This mall is incredible. Now, I don't often talk about the channel in my videos, but to those of you who are regular viewers, I would like to say thank you all so much for your recent support. The channel recently crossed 4,000 subscribers, and all I can really say is thank you. Thank you all so much for your tremendous support. It means a lot to me that all of you guys want to support my hobby of just checking out all of these malls. And I have tons of more malls coming to the channel very soon, so make sure you click that subscribe button for more. And with that being said, I would like to thank you all so much for watching my video tour of the mall at Greece Ridge in Greece, New York. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like as it greatly helps support the channel. And whilst you're at it, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I have a lot more mall videos coming to the channel very soon with a lot more stuff you're not going to want to miss. So be sure to subscribe for more mall videos to come your way. I also have an Instagram linked in the description with sneak peeks of future videos coming to the channel. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. Take care, stay awesome, and have a blessed day. I will see you all in my next video.